Good morning. It is October 28th, and this is my second time recording this, even though I don't do that, because it's been a hell of a... So, October 28th, 2022. Good morning. It is Friday, and when I wrap this video up, I will not see you till Monday morning. I did not say that at the end of the last video, which I need to learn how to edit. So hopefully this weekend I will spend some time editing. So today is Awake and Resources. Where can you go for all this information? Anywhere, everywhere. That is the beauty of the time we're living in right now. When you start to wake up, you are very hungry, figuratively and literally. I read voraciously, and I think it's wonderful. Like, I'm in my 5th decade, and I think back to even 20, 30 years ago, and where I found information and how I found information. And there may be an awful lot of things to say about Google, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever's coming next. Good, bad. Again, truth is always somewhere in the middle, in my opinion. But the fact that we have access to information and opinions, it is a stunning time to be trying to wake up, in my opinion. Access to credible information, whole nother story. And that's kind of what the majority of today is about, is talking about how to source your information. I don't think it matters. And I say that with, a little caveat. I think what is more important than sourcing, although I think that's very important, is your ability to evaluate your source. Going into that and saying that, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the president. I don't care if you're CNN. I don't care if you're the top virologist in the world. It doesn't matter. You are inherently going to be biased. There is no way, absolutely no way, even though some people will try to tell you I can do a crossover, random, double-blind study. You cannot remove all your bias. It is not possible. You can just bring it down, you can evaluate results, and you can decide what to do with those results. But inherently, when you structure a study, you are going to structure it for a certain outcome. It's what you're looking for. It's inevitable. I know that when I was in organic chem and biochem, and I was a young student, I'd go into organic chem lab once a week, from 1 to 3. All heck broke loose. My yields were never what they were supposed to be. It's messy. I wasn't a good scientist, but I learned, like my fellow organic chemists, to back that train up and figure out what my yield would be beforehand, because you're writing out your experiment, you know what you expect. So I was inherently structuring and predicating what I was doing that day on thousands and thousands of other people who had done that experiment before. So just know that. I don't care who you are, what field you're in, you're inherently biased. The trick is to know that, to look at what you're evaluating, and to be able to ask questions. Questions are key. When people are basing information or statements or thesis, they are basing it on inherent bias, and they do not go back and they do not look at the primary literature, because oh my gosh, how long would that take? There are some great people when we get into nutrition who have spent a decade or longer. This is where their life lies, and going, hey, what I'm being told doesn't make sense, but it's a soundbite, it's a blurb. I'm going to go back and I'm going to dig through the primary literature. That's taken them an awful long time. You don't have to do that in the same way we have time, but you have to understand the inherent bias in what you're being told, no matter who's telling you. So, another thing I want to talk about is the dark night of the soul and searching for information on that. When you wake up and you start to encounter this phrase, dark night of the soul, and even me, when I was writing this, and I'm like, I think I know conceptually what that is, But do I really know what that is? I've read books on it, but how can I put that into a sentence or a phrase? So good old Bing, it's defined as a period of spiritual desolation suffered by a mystic in which all sense of consolation is removed. That was really easy for me. Been there, done that. I'm like, bing, but also another part of my brain goes, well, be prepared, there may be more. And I think there are layers. We don't just hit these milestones, check them off, and move on. But I would say my biggest dark night of the soul was when I looked up, I looked around at my fellow man, I looked at, it's probably a huge part of waking up for me, and I'm like, this is horrible. What looks normal about this to anyone? Why do 5,000 children, that statistic is probably not right because that was a long time ago, it's probably way higher. Why did they die of lack of access to clean waters when we're getting ready to put people on Mars, when we're doing these lithium chips that are capable of things that cognitively it's hard to wrap your brain around? So that was kind of one of my big aha moments. I will say this, whenever you're going through this dark night of the soul, whatever you're investigating, I think mine was definitely tied to investigation, is if you're passionate about it, that will be your fuel. That will be what carries you through, what gets you up, what makes you keep asking questions, what makes you investigate. So, like I said, all rabbit holes, burrows, in my opinion, go down to the same place. But what if you're interested in everything? I'm interested, I have lots of buckets that I'm interested in. But I think I found my bucket. I think I'm gonna put a caveat in there. But when I was looking at my place in this world, how we treat each other, I came away very disillusioned, very depressed, wondering if we've been lied to about everything. I'm like, is anything we understand or what we think we understand true? Those are interesting words too, truth and lies. I have to back myself up and remember, I am one person, one consciousness, in one body, in one brain. Truth and lie, what feels like a lie to me may be a truth to someone else, and vice versa. It's all about interpretation. So, beside evaluating information, understanding that I'm looking at from that information from my perspective, I've had to ask myself, because I think there are many worthy causes out there, where am I placing my energy? Where is my attention going? Because there is a saying, and I think it's really true, where attention goes, energy flows. And where you're putting your attention, time and energy, what is that doing for you? And that's an important question. I don't think it's a selfish question. I think it's an important question, because there have been things that have come along are so important. I'm like, somebody needs to be doing something about this. But if it sucks the ever-loving life out of you and it takes you to a very dark, depressing place, I'm not saying that's not natural, but it's an amalgam. And there are people in history who have done amazing things. They have tackled the hardest issues: Underground Railroad, drug addiction, sexual abuse, human trafficking. I suspect that when they get up every day and they do that, it's not all easy, unicorns and butterflies, but it fuels their soul. It's a passion. It's something they say, I will spend every day for the rest of my life on this. Then I think you found your path. Then I think you found your calling. But that's a whole internal process. So, information's out there. Learn how to source it. Learn that when you're sourcing it, there's an inherent bias. Try to evaluate your stance. Truth and lie, probably opposite sides of the same coin. And just keep doing it. I've heard lately that the questions or the answers, it's not important. What's important is that you're asking the question. And I'm going to wrap up today with the last thing I wrote yesterday, because it hit the fan. But you know what? I got up, I did it all over again, and that's the the beauty of a new day. But the answer to that question, in my opinion, is that Full stop. That's where I answered. That's where I ended. And I don't think I think that's the universe going, that's where you need to stop. There is no answer to that question. There is only the question. So, very transcendental, but I want to say have a blessed day. My day is already 10 million times better than when I stepped on the treadmill this morning. Go gently in this world, and I will see you Monday morning, not Saturday morning, Monday morning, because I need a break too. I need to refuel Dahanavad.